What's going on, golf fans? It's your boy Gsluke here with our DFS and betting preview for this week's Procore Championship. Gonna get you guys ready for all of your exposure, but first off, look at the golf course and how it should play here in 2025, and then afterwards we're gonna focus on that star-studded field which has the US Ryder Cup team in it, and try and find some of our top plays of the week. It'll be for DFS and on the betting side of things, going through my DFS core plays and values, as well as 3 outright bets that have already mixed in at this point. So by the end, to be an expert on how this golf course is gonna play, and also to have an idea of a few ideas on people to play. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get this thing going. But first off, a look at Silverado Resort Spa. If you guys haven't already seen my course breakdown, I would recommend checking it out if you can. There's a link down below in the description to that. But this golf course is extremely fair. You've had some bombers win like a Cameron Champ. You've had some top 5, top 10 finishers that are also long off the tee. But then also some of your old, short, more plodding type players that have also made their heyday around here. I mean, Matt Kuchar is one of the best players in shots gained per round around here. But then also Cameron Champ on the other side of things has also found a lot of success. So off the tee, you can do it with your accuracy or your distance, but approach play and putting are absolute musts. And approach play really can be narrowed down to 150 and in, other than the form over the last 12 and 24 rounds. What you want to focus on would be those wedges, because you have a plethora of shorter par 4s, a bunch of shots that are going to be with your degreed wedges. So getting players that really excel in those proximity buckets could prove fruitful on a week like this. So that on top of the last 24, last 12 measured rounds is what I'm looking at with my iron play. With your putting, that's my number 2 key stat this week. Over the last few years, that's really been the key separator. In the 7 to 10 foot range, putts have been a lot harder at this golf course than at others. I'm looking at form, but not only that, also the bent POA surface. That's the type of agronomy that we have at Silverado, the North Course, and looking at players that have excelled on that type of grass could also be a good idea there. And off the tee, I mentioned that it was extremely balanced, so I'm looking at off the tee stats, but also a little bit of driving accuracy. And then around the green can't be ignored, because the greens at this course are tiny, only about 5,000 square foot. Not quite Pebble Beach small, but Pebble Beach is the comp course that I'm using for this event. And sometimes we'll have 2, 3, even 4 comp courses to use, but because this is a short par 72, also a golf course with really small greens, really the only golf course that is similar to it would be a Pebble Beach. And the agronomy is a bit different. It is a pure POA surface out there as opposed to that bent POA, but the ball striking, the fact that you can hit a lot of less than drivers, the fact that it's a second shot golf course and the greens are hard to putt, are all similarities across these different tracks. So perhaps some of the recent winners at the Pebble Beach Pro-Am, especially from 3 years plus ago, last 2 years, it has been a signature field event. So only your top tier players that were really teeing it up there, which you do have some of them in this field, so it can be used for like some of your top tier players. But 3+ years ago at the Pebble Beach Pro-Am, it was a regular PGA Tour event, so we could use that for a lot of our comp course history for the rest of the field. But overall, I would say that whether you're a plotter, you're a long player off the tee, we want guys that were playing well to end last season. And I guess if you want to add some of the agronomy stuff on top of that, like the bent POA putting, maybe that driving accuracy, there's a few things that we're using as bonuses, but nothing that you absolutely have to have. So we're looking for guys that are under-owned for DFS. We're looking for players that are maybe underpriced for DFS as well, and actively trying to leverage them this week. Speaking of, let's go through our top pieces of exposure for the week. So our first core play is going to be Scotty Scheffler at $14,400, and really the only downside to playing world number 1 is going to be that price tag there. I mean, he's $4,200 more expensive than the second priced guy. He's pretty much putting you down to the 6K range for at least 2 players, but with that kind of a salary change, does give you an opportunity for some differentiation. So I'm not completely against that kind of change whatsoever. In fact, you could argue that there's upside in getting to some of those lower owned lineup constructions, and even though he'll probably be 40-50% owned this week, you're getting so much differentiation in those 2 players that it more than makes up for that kind of thing. And when you compare his projection to even a Justin Thomas, it's nearly a 20-point difference, and he's got a 98% made cut percentage. I mean, just every single stat that you could possibly look at on Scotty is going to be favorable, whether it's the last 24, the last 12 measured rounds. He's gaining across all 4 stat categories. You can see there about 3 strokes per round over his last 24 rounds. I mean, 3 strokes per round is a little bit worse. It's about 1 stroke worse than winning every single week. Over the last 12 rounds, it's 2.8 shots gained per round. The guy is just inhuman at this point. So even though he's expensive, even though he's going to get that ownership, I would argue that he's still easily worth playing. And pretty much every single time that he's teed it up this year, I've used him and I haven't felt that bad about it. Like, there's been a couple weeks where he hasn't gone there, but I don't usually lock him. I usually play him in that like 50 to 75% range, where I'm still getting a healthy amount of them, but I'm not putting all my eggs into one basket. And this week, there's a chance that I do lock him. There's been a few cases where I've almost put him into literally every single lineup that I've built. I've shied away from that as much as I possibly can. But I mean, if I had to pick somebody in the world to lock into all my lineups, it'd be a Scottie Scheffler, particularly in outside of what is maybe a really strong field for the first 7 or 8 names, a really weak field when it comes to that depth. So I'll be using him in my lineups, starting almost every single build, if not every single build with him in my lineups, but not betting him outright. He, of course, has a little bit worse than 2-to-1 odds to go out there and win. So I'm going to use him in DFS. I'm going to make that where I get all of my exposure this week and rather take some long shots on players that I think are mispriced. And partially because of guys like Scottie, some of these other elite tier players, we're getting legit betting odds on players that, if we didn't have all these top tier guys here, would probably have been close to 20-to-1. So that's where I'm going to be taking my shots for some of those longer shots that can win one of these fall series events. But for DFS purposes, Scottie Scheffler is by far, in my opinion, the best player that we have on the slate. Number 2, though, our second core play is going to be Collin Morikawa, and that is going to be our first outright bet. And I wasn't really going to put him in as a core play at first. It was more so that I thought there was a lot of line value here. But when I compared him to some of the other names in this range, I quickly realized that he wasn't just getting disrespected in the betting markets, but also with his DFS price. So on Hard Rock Bet, that's where I have access to bet my outrights. He is 30-to-1. I did boost that to 33-to-1. He's down to 18 or even 16-to-1 on some other spots. So there's a lot of line value on taking him at that 33-to-1 number, hence why I was out there and adding him to my exposure. But as I looked at that price tag and looked at a Spawn, a McNeely, an English, a Thompson, especially these names below him towards the top end of the 8K range, he's clearly a better player than all of them. And though the form's not as good, right, he's got by far the worst form of anyone in this range, I'm somebody that will take the long-term approach, zoom out a little bit more on a guy like Morikawa and cut him some slack, especially when it's been the short game that's been holding him back. So if we go to the last 12 measured rounds and we see why he hasn't been playing his best golf, it hasn't been for a lack of a ball striking. I mean, he's gaining off the tee about 0.2 strokes per round. Nothing crazy there, but still a little bit better than your average player. And gaining 1.2 shots gained approach per round. That's one of the best numbers, if not the best number, of all of these elite tier players. And we always talk about approach play being the most sticky stat from week to week, really what almost everyone is honing in on with their shots gained modeling. He's got that in spades, and it's been the short game that's been holding him back. Losing about a half a stroke per round around the green isn't ideal, but that's something that he can get cleaned up. He was much better with the around the green play to start 2025. And then the putting, he's losing about 1.1 shots gained per round. Not an elite tier putter, but also a player that we'd expect to perform a lot better than that. So I'm taking the short game regression for a Collin Morikawa. A lot of times this is what we're looking at in our showdown process. We're trying to find these ball strikers that are due to just even be unneutral in the short game categories and improve. And at 33-to-1, a just disrespectful outright number to be hanging on him, particularly because it's such a lack of depth field. I mean, it's such a shallow field when you're looking at that top end talent. By the time we get down to your Morikawas, your McNeelys of the world, it drops off like a rock. So that's why I'm really prioritizing some of these top tier players. And because he's $9,100, he's going to be tough to use as a second man in. You could pull it off with a Scottie Scheffler lineup, but when I'm not using Scottie Scheffler and starting with another player in this 10K range, he's a really good second man in those lineups. So he's somebody that I'll be over the field on for DFS as well, just because I think he stands out from that price angle. But from the outright perspective, was the first click that I had for this week. I mean, I'm somebody that's maybe a little bit more of a Collin Morikawa sympathizer compared to other people out there. I look at the long-term talent of this kind of guy and just realize it's going to turn around sooner rather than later. And I won't bet him at, comparable numbers or numbers that really make sense for him. I only do it when it's something that's just glaringly off, which in my opinion at this 33-to-1 number seems off enough to go out there and attack. Before we go through our 2 value plays, I do want to remind you where you guys can find these spreadsheets. And just like we did for the entire regular season, we have these spreadsheets here for the fall season as well. Those can be found on my Patreon page, link down below in the description to go ahead and check it out. The Golf DFS tier is what you want to join if you want to download these sheets with projections for every single player that's teeing it up. I've got projected ownership on there when we end up calculating that tomorrow. Also projected points, made cut rate, shots gained metrics, event history, you name it, for every single guy that's teeing it up. stuff to help you do all of your research for these events, but also to give you my take on the week. You'll have my entire player pool to go through. Every single outright bet that I've placed will also be available for all my Patreon members, just for the $15 a month that it takes to join the golf tier. So very good value compared to all the other sites out there in the industry that are charging you $50 to maybe even $100 plus a month for the same sort of stuff. And you won't find the same kind of analysis that you have here. I mean, it's as detailed as it's possibly going to get. You get all the raw numbers to run your own modeling if you want to yourself, but also all the modeling that I run, right? You get the exact weightings over here so you can reproduce it, maybe tinker with it yourself to try and make it exactly what you want for any given week, so that not only can you see what a pro player like myself is doing, but you can also round out your own process. So make sure to check it out if you guys haven't already. One of the only sites in the fall that's really going to be staying on top of all of this golf, on top of the NFL stuff that we're doing. And I'm not a website that has a whole team of people that are grinding this out. It's just me that's going out there and doing so. So supporting the Patreon page and the work that we're doing here is of course greatly appreciated. And also it's just no excuse for these other websites not to, right? If somebody that's a one-man show is able to get the job done, then you would think some of these other websites would be able to pull their weight as well, particularly with multiple people on staff. But that's none of my business. We'll go ahead and move on to our value plays now and keep this thing going. So next up, we got Matt McCarty here at $8,200. He is 100 to 1 to win, and I did bet him at that mark because he's just a proven winner. And I mean, you've probably heard the Matt McCarty speech from me at this point. Somebody that I am just way over the field on in terms of talent level long term. This is somebody that won 3 times on the Korn Ferry Tour to even earn his chance on the PGA Tour, won one of his first starts ever on the PGA Tour to end up getting status for the next few years. And yeah, $8,200 is expensive when you compare him to like a $9,100 Morikawa, but we've got to look at it in terms of like the guys around him, right? We got to look at it in perspective. These guys around him, like a Fishburne, were like $6,000 in some slates like a month and 2 months ago. You have guys like a Hubbard, a Woodland, a Kuchar that, aren't really scaring anyone when it comes to their DFS potential. So $8,200 is actually a pretty decent price tag here. And there's a few things that really fit this golf course well. One, he's not a bomber. He's not super long off the tee. He's not a good player off the tee really at all because he also sprays it a bit when he's not playing well. So you play him at courses where you don't have to be a really good off the tee player. And I was mentioning before that if you have a deficiency in your game, it's okay around Silverado, right? As long as you're really good with the approach play and the putting. Well, if we go to the last 24 measured rounds and we take a look at his shots gained, he's gaining across all 4 categories. He's gaining about 0.1 strokes per round on approach. Could be better, to be honest, but at least he's better than your PGA Tour average player, but really good with the short game. And if we go to the last 12 measured rounds, I believe he's gaining in 3 of the 4 stat categories, slightly into the negative on approach. I guess if we're going to be nitpicky, it would be better to see him hitting the irons over the last, 2 events or so, hitting it a little bit better, but still gaining about 0.6 strokes per round. And the thing with McCarty is that he's hit or miss. He'll miss cuts. He'll finish in like 60th sometimes when he makes cuts and kind of sucks. But when he has a good week and he's in contention, it's a top 5, top 10. I mean, the guy stays in contention. He's an absolute dog. We've seen him hold up under the pressure and actually win on this stage before. And I think this year he's going to win once or twice. Like, this is the kind of player that I see taking a big step forward. He has every single part of his game down. I mean, last 24 measured rounds. By the way, he played some playoff events. He played some big events towards the end of last year. Still gaining across all 4 categories. Ended up playing pretty decently in the majors too. This is the kind of name that could be in the top 30 at the end of the year, in my opinion. So, like Matt McCarty in general, always going to be high on him, especially at these weaker field events. And at triple digits to win, the next time he wins, he's not going to kiss that ever again. I mean, in this kind of field, if he ends up winning this week, he'll probably be like 40, 50 to 1 the next time that it comes around at the very worst. I mean, he might even be better than that if I end up being right about him getting to the top 30 in Eastlake this year. But yeah, at this point, at 100 to 1, I don't think it's going to be around much longer. And DFS, by the way, too, it's worth noting that aspect. Love him over there too because he has that top end upside, and because he's got that really wide range of outcomes. He's either really good or he's really bad at times. That's perfect for large field GPPs, and that's where I play a lot of my PGA DFS exposure, is in the larger field contests, the big $5, the big $25 GPPs, where it's all about really winning the top 5, even first place, and getting that really top heavy prize pool structure. Guys like McCarty are absolute gold because they actually have a chance at being the absolute nuts. And also the ownership, he should be sub 10% owned, I'd say. It's super early on a Monday, so it's really hard to say exactly where the ownership's going to come in. Again, that's something that'll be on the Patreon page throughout the week, so make sure to check that out if you guys haven't already. But McCarty, if he's going to be 10% or lower than that in terms of the ownership, then I'm going to be thrilled to use him in my lineups. And then the last value play that we've got is Tom Kim at 150 to 1 to win. So a big long shot, but 150 to 1 for a guy that's a multiple time tour winner, that is disrespectful in the least. And he's actually started to play decently lately, and it's all because of the putter. We go to the last 12 measured rounds, you'll see this with Tom Kim. He's actually gaining strokes to the field, and it's not like it's been otherworldly or anything, but the iron play has been there for months at this point. I mean, he's been a really good iron player for all of 2025. The guy could just not sniff the hole when he was getting onto the greens, which is wild because when he first got out on the tour, Tom Kim is gaining like 1 to 1.5 shots gained putting per round. And now that we've had 2 weeks off, I mean, these guys have probably been grinding over the last couple weeks. Tom Kim's out of the limelight. He's no longer really the superstar that everyone's talking about. He wants to get back to that stage. I can promise you that. And he's got all the talent in the world. It wasn't just a fluke when he came out the tour and he went out there and won twice. This was somebody that we had been hearing about for years and years and years and years before he got to the PGA Tour, because he was a talented kid at like 14 years old, outshining kids that were like 18, 19 and beating them in the amateur circles. Tom Kim, when he figures out that putter again, which you'd have to think at some point is going to come around with how good he used to be on the greens, I mean, watch out because the iron play has been there. So last 24 rounds, we zoom out a little bit more on Tom Kim. You can see he's gaining in 3 of the 4 categories, only losing with that off the tee. And just like we had with McCarty, you play him at golf courses where you don't have to have the off the tee. Like, you don't have to be a bomber. You don't have to be an elite tier player avoiding that long rough. He's historically a more accurate player. So to go back to our key stats, right, driving accuracy was the main thing that I was looking at with our off the tee play. And that's what he's kind of known for. So I'm going to take this as a bounce back spot for him. 150 to 1 kind of speaks for itself, but in DFS, he also has that kind of upside we're hoping for. I mean, a top 10 probably pays off a $7,200 price tag, and that is well within his range of outcomes. And this style of golf course, these fall series events, have been where Tom Kim has made a lot of his hay in the past. So I'll be using him in my lineups. I call him Tom Him at times because he's one of my top 5 favorite players in the world. So a slight bias, I'd say, giving him the bounce back chance here, but you can't deny that he has that kind of potential behind him, right? That boom bust ability. Those top 5, top 10s have still been there this year, especially the top 10s for Tom Kim. Very sporadically, a lot more missed cuts than what you had the year before, but maybe now that we've had a little bit of a break, he'll get back to what we had there before. Alrighty, guys, that is all I've got for the DFS and betting preview. Go ahead, smash that like button if you guys haven't already. Also subscribe so you guys don't miss any of the content to come. And also comment down below who you've got winning this golf tournament for a chance to earn a free month on my Patreon page. And as long as it's not Scotty Scheffler, so guess anybody but Scotty, if they win, you will win a free month access. And it's going to be on a first come, first serve basis. So once a player's taken once, they cannot be taken again. So go ahead, guess your player before anyone else ends up stealing them from you. And best of luck with everything this week, whether it's with the giveaway, any of your DFS lineups. I hope to see a lot of your names towards the top end of those GPPs, or with any bets or props that you're entering for this event. It's nice to have golf back, and hopefully we can make it one into the green as well. So that's all I've got, guys. Best of luck, as I was saying before. Make sure to check out the live streams that we have throughout the weekend for all the prop and the betting content as well. We're going to have those here on the channel after these rounds end. For round 1, we're going to be going live on Wednesday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern time, going through all the props and bets for Thursday, and same thing for rounds 2 through 4. So make sure to stop on by for that. And we're also going to have showdown content this weekend as well. So make sure to keep an eye out to my X/Twitter for all the announcements when we're going live. But yeah, subscribing is how you can make sure that you guys can see all that content into the future. Join the Patreon page too if you guys want those spreadsheets to yourself to use for all of your research this week. I'll see you guys out there on Wednesday night.